So I've seen some videos lately, and even some fans out there, I don't know if they're fans of Switch or if they're haters of Switch, saying that Doom 2016 failed sales-wise on Switch. And I kept wondering, where are these numbers coming from, right? I went to all the typical news outlets. I tried looking up NPD reports. I tried looking up sales charts and all this stuff, and I couldn't actually find any sales data for Doom. So I'm like, where are these numbers coming from? I saw a Dreamcast guy talk about it. I've seen Spawnwave at least tweet about it and now talk about it in a video earlier today. And I'm like, man, what is going on with these numbers? Turns out they come from VG charts. So let me make a little disclaimer here, or drop a little knowledge nugget about VG charts. VG charts are not official sales. They are guesstimates. They even say in their report on the website where they talk about the sales of Doom on Switch that these are estimations. These are not based on any evidence per se. These are their estimates for the sales. They update these numbers over time. So when like the real sales numbers come out, they will update those sales figures, but they're estimations, so they assume it's only sold X amount of copies. Now, let's take a step back off of that and then for a minute pretend these numbers are real, because I've used VG charts for reference purposes in the past. So because we're talking about VG charts numbers here, we're also going to be talking about VG charts numbers for this game on other platforms, because I fear we're going to talk about the sales numbers for Doom 2016 based on the VG charts numbers. We should talk about it in comparison to the sales for the other platforms that Doom came out of based on VG charts. So we're using the same source for our data here. And yeah, it doesn't look good. Doom 2016, or as we just call it on Nintendo Switch, Doom, yeah, it only sold, according to VG charts, 81,000 copies. Now, based on reading the report, it sounds like this estimation is physical copies only. So if you include digital, it's theoretically possible that it surpassed 100,000 based on their guesses. But even then, let's just stick with that low number of 81,000 units. That doesn't sound like very much, does it? Brawlout, you know, they were just bragging on Twitter earlier that, hey, we sold over 50,000 copies on Switch, and that's really, really good for an indie game. But for a large AAA publisher, 80,000 copies doesn't sound very enticing. Now, we obviously knew there's a lot of factors working against the sales of Doom. Outside of the fact that it has to fight the fact that it's on a Nintendo platform that hasn't traditionally had something in the ilk of Doom in a long time. It's that the game costs $60 when you can get it cheaper on other platforms. Even when you buy the physical cartridge, you still have big downloads. Now, you could argue if that's a deterrent because Xbox One and PlayStation 4, you have to install the game and download updates anyways. So, whatever the case may be with that, I'm not sure how much that impacted things. But I think the price of it, the performance of it, and being on a platform that it sounds like around the time it came out had maybe 8 or 9 million units out there in the wild that people actually owned worldwide. So when you look at 81,000 units compared to 8 or 9 million consoles out there, that doesn't sound very much, especially when you're hearing that some certain indie games are selling phenomenally well. When we hear, Street Fighter 2 selling 500,000 copies, it doesn't sound, that's like way back at launch, right? It doesn't sound very enticing here for games like Doom to come to the platform. Now, there's a few caveats we have to consider as well. One, we don't know how much of an investment it was to get Doom running on Switch. Panic Button did all of the development. We don't know how long they spent developing it. We don't know, or I should say porting it. We don't know how much money went into it. And we don't know, maybe 81,000 copies actually made them a significant profit. If Brawlout people are happy about, selling their game at like $20 or $40 or whatever it is, at 50,000 copies, imagine how happy the people behind Doom must be to sell 81,000 copies at $60 a crack. Now, relative to the other platforms out there, this obviously is a significantly smaller number. It sold about, based on VG Charts numbers, about 1.1 million units on Xbox One, about 2.26 million units on PlayStation 4. They didn't have any data on there for the PC sales, but I've heard rough estimates that Doom on the whole might have sold around 6 million units since it launched last year. Now, obviously, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 numbers have the advantage of that's numbers that date back from launch to today, so over a year worth of sales data, whereas it appears these 81,000 unit figures that VG Charts is talking about is just the first week sales. And there's obviously going to be extra sales for Doom after that first week, especially once YouTubers and other influencers got their hands on it and started being like, hey, look, you should go get this game. So there's that. To put it lightly, even if the 81,000 number is true and that included digital sales, there are more than 81,000 units that have sold. As I said, I think it's a safe presumption to think it's sold over 100,000 units easily on Switch because we've had several weeks since launch. There's been plenty of time for trickle-down sales to occur. So, is this a failure? We can't know. It definitely isn't something that looks 100% positive. And I know I've been, kind of defending Switch lately and talking about all the positives and going after some negative Nancys out there maybe in the YouTube space. But we do have to step back here and admit, 100,000 units doesn't really sound much more enticing than 81,000 units. I mean, it's triple digits, but it's triple digits for a game that, is at 7 digits on other consoles. So it just doesn't sound that great. And it makes me worry about the performance of Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, because while that's probably not going to be a year out from when the game released, even being 6 months out, the game will probably be at half off at that point on other platforms, and it's going to run better on those platforms, and then it's going to come out at $60 and running worse on Switch, and I question if that's going to sell very well. Will it sell better than Doom? I don't know. I don't know if the appeal of Wolfenstein is better than the appeal of Doom on Switch. What I do know is that there's going to be a larger install base when Wolfenstein comes out, and that could help it sell. I think it's just a very interesting place that Doom 2016 finds itself in, and I feel like the concern for Nintendo fans, the concern for someone like me, is obviously that the sales of Doom could determine that we are not going to get a lot more games like that, especially from Bethesda in the future, and I hope that's not the case. What we have to remember, what we always have to remember, is we are still, even right now, in the beginning of 2018, in the first year of Switch. We have no idea what this platform is going to resemble 2-3 years from now. It definitely appears it's on a path to success, primarily thanks to Nintendo's own offerings, but I want to see more sales data for more games and more concrete numbers than just a guesstimate, an estimation from VG charts. I mean, we have an estimation out there that Switch sold 15 million units in 2017, and the only official number we have for 2017 is, hey, we've sold more than 10 million units. It's one of those things where we are fishing with a fishing pole and coming up with results without actually catching anything, right? It's like I threw my worm in the water on my hook, I pulled it up, and my worm's half eaten, but I don't know what ate it. So that's what we're dealing with when we're talking about sales numbers right now. We don't have any data on Skyrim and how well that might have done. We don't really have any concrete numbers even on NBA 2K18 on Switch yet. We don't have any numbers really on how FIFA did. We don't have pretty much all these third-party games. We don't really have any idea. See, Nintendo, we have an idea of, for most of their games, at least a general concept, because at their financial report, their last quarterly financial report, they gave us sales data on several different titles, and they have a place on their website where they update their million sellers. So as long as the Switch game moves over 1 million units, they have sales data for it, which now includes ARMS, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild. They were touting the sales of Odyssey and blah, blah, blah. So we have ideas on how these games are doing, but other companies don't always do that. Unless it's an extremely, extremely impressive number. I guarantee if Doom had sold over 1 million copies on Switch, we would have heard about it by now. Because that would be something that Bethesda would be going bonkers about. That's what they did in Xbox One, and Xbox One had significantly more units out in the wild and also had a fan base that plays those kind of games. Whereas Nintendo kind of isn't used to getting these kind of games. So it's going to be interesting. I hope that Bethesda, regardless of if they are not making any money off these numbers, or they don't make any money off of Wolfenstein 2, I'm hoping that they stick to it, because the only way you're going to change the reputation of these games on the Nintendo platforms is to keep releasing them. And I feel like it's a problem that Nintendo has to address as well. They need to start dabbling in some more adult-like content. I'm hoping that Retro Studios' new IP is definitely, it doesn't need to be rated M or anything, but it's aimed at older gamers, at gamers in their late teens and early 20s, like I feel like the Switch in general is kind of aimed at. I'm hoping that Nintendo starts catering more to that audience, because I feel like there's still that reputation that Nintendo is for kids. And that, when you see sales of Doom, it kind of permeates that reputation a little bit that, oh, look, Splatoon 2 with these kid-like squids, are you a kid, are you a squid, sold over 4 million copies or so, but then we look at Doom and it can't even break 100K based on the current numbers. It's not a good look for any defense that the Switch isn't for kids and that or isn't its intended target audience isn't kids, its primary audience is. I've been arguing for a year now that Nintendo's target audience for Switch is exactly the kind of audience that should be interested in Doom. But at the same point, there are factors working against Doom. So I'm hoping that Bethesda and other companies start doing day-and-date releases. This is why I really want to see NBA 2K18 sales. Again, that also had the caveat that the physical version was delayed a month. I don't know. We need some equal treatment from third parties before I can really be comfortable in saying that these games just don't sell on Nintendo platforms. I'm hoping Bethesda sticks to it, that, you know, with the Skyrim and Wolfenstein and Doom, that they have more games planned to come to the platform, I'm hoping, and that we start to see these games selling well as the system gets older and older. Because what we have to remember, and this is another data point to consider, and again, Call of Duty, I'm using Call of Duty as an example here, did sell significantly worse on like a platform like the Wii than it did on the competitors. But Call of Duty regularly sold over 1 million copies on Wii, which was well worth their time to bring the game over. When the first Call of Duty game that came to Wii launched, its launch week only had 89,000 in sales. And over the lifetime of that game, it sold over 1 million units. So there's still that thing where it's too soon with too little of data, really no data, guesstimates, to determine what Doom's going to become. Maybe it only sold 81,000 during launch week, but what are the sales since launch week? Has it hit the 200,000 plateau? It could already be over 200,000 by now, and here we're talking about launch week sale data that's like months old at this point. So we got to be careful in overreacting to the data we have, but we also need to be conservative in realizing if this data is real, what does it really mean? Right now, we don't know enough. And I'm hoping that even if the data is true, we continue to see support like this. One, because I want these games. It's a personal desire for me to play these games on Switch. And two, because the more these games come out, the more you're going to build an audience for them. Until games come out, the issue with these games in the past, I think, on Nintendo platforms, at least in the last 10 years, has been we haven't consistently got those releases. So if we consistently get them, people will feel more confident in buying those games and keeping the community alive. And what I will say is every time I go to play Doom Online, I have no problem finding a match, which is, I mean, there's no cross-platform play there, so that's got to mean something. At least the online community seems decently active. Anyways, folks, I'm Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime. You guys let me know what you think about the whole Doom sale situation on Switch down in the comments below. Oh boy, what a way to kick off today. Let me know what you think about the format here. I know that I've had some Doom footage in the background. Let me know what you guys think, you know. Voiceover over gameplay. Now we got Nate over gameplay. Ho ho ho! Ho 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 ho! Oh boy. If you like this video, you know what to do. If you dislike the video, hit that dislike button. Subscribe for more content. And if you subscribe, be sure to hit that bell icon so you get all notifications for every video we upload and every live stream that we do. You don't want to miss anything we do. We have a lot of great stuff. We gave away Monopoly Gamer Edition during one of our live streams last week. And actually it's right here. It's being shipped out later this week. So we gave away that. Who knows what's going to happen in our live streams? They get crazy. Thank you everyone for our support, whether you're a Patreon backer or you're just just someone who watches our videos. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And you know what? I will catch you in the next one.